Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's impromptu Double Barrel Gaming Presents. And we're going to be talking about Spider-Man and the news that broke yesterday with Sony having him, the wall-crawling, face of Marvel, as an exclusive for Marvel's The Avengers, multi-plat that is coming out for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 platforms on September 4th. And there is a lot to talk about. And before I get into my personal thoughts, let's introduce the two panel members. One, of course, who you know as the co-host with the co-most, and he's our cog, so to speak, that keeps the Xbox Factor podcast running. Zemi Games, welcome to this show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this. Everybody was talking about this on Twitter. Like, it seems like the last, the last day, and it seems to be a very, very hot topic. And I can't wait to jump in and do my spiel.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're here, and again, I'm glad that the community is going to come out hopefully big for this. Folks, I made the announcement an hour ago. I don't know how many people are going to tune in, but in reality, I just needed to get this off of my chest. I wanted to have an adult conversation without yelling and screaming and stomping my feet, because that's not how I run my channel. That is not how I conduct myself both publicly and privately. But this is worth a conversation, and the word ramification is going to be used a lot by me on what this actually means moving forward. I think right now the community, there are aspects of it that are cheering this. I've read, and again, I'm not going to, call out the fanboys and say that they're to blame for this. No, they're not. They're excited because their brand did something in their eyes heroic. There are people like myself who are admittedly and openly multi-platform supporters, and most of the conversation with people like myself who support multiple consoles, even though we're going to play this, find this to be a gross tactic. And there, of course, they're going to be the Xbox crowd, that people that only play on Xbox, that are going to feel shunned and let down by the industry, by Crystal Dynamics, more specifically by Microsoft, because, again, I'm not going to go into specifics on my criticisms of Microsoft on this particular show. I am going to ask that you tune in on Thursday's Xbox Factor when we have the entire panel of Insipid Ghost, Mr. Badbit, Zemi, yourself, and Boxer Bear, where I am going to break down why this needs to be a wake-up call for Microsoft. Phil Spencer needs to see this, and he needs to respond in kind. And I'm going to not going to break it down, because I've already started writing the topic, and I don't want to merge one show with the other, but I do have a lot to say, and I'm hoping that you will tune in, because if you tune into this program or you're a supporter of the brand, you understand that when Microsoft does something well, I will cheer. When Microsoft does something wrong and I feel that need improvement, I would be a fraud if I didn't come forward and say, this is where I have a problem and they need to address it. And I'm going to be doing that live on Thursday's show. But next up, you know him as our resident Superman. He has saved me more times than I can count, but we're not asking him to don the caper cow. We're not asking him to jump out of a phone booth. We're asking him to potentially hold that Marvel banner. Dreadpool, welcome to the show, dude.
Oh, thank you. I didn't put on the cape today, but we are putting on the fisticuffs.
Well, I mean, again, there's a lot to talk about. I think that this is a conversation worth having. I think it's a conversation that you can have as an adult. I think it's a conversation that we can have as a community, and it can be done in a proper manner. And as a matter of fact, again, I want to give a shout out to Young Ye. Now, not that dude actually needs any help from Little Boomstick. He probably will never know who I am, but I'm a big fan of his. Now, I will say Sometimes he is a little dramatic, to be honest with you, but I have to say that I love his personality and his persona. And it was his video that I watched this morning that basically inspired me to do this impromptu Spider-Man conversation. And quite frankly, he obviously had some feelings towards it. We know that he's a big Sony guy, and even he seemed to have a bit of an issue with it. So let me get my thoughts out as we have the people funnel in before we get into the weeds, so to speak, about this conversation. First and foremost, while we wait for people to shuffle in, I want to just give people the heads up. If you missed the news yesterday, I did a video, and I don't do many of them, but it was information regarding a tremendous giveaway that Mrs. BoomStick, my brother Neo Mental, and I are doing for the community come this holiday, more specifically and more likely in November. The video went out, and it basically detailed that when these consoles are released, we are going to be giving away one Xbox Series X, and we're going to be giving away one PlayStation 5 Digital Edition with Miles Morales. And as a bonus, to add more fuel to the giveaway fire, and I said this in the video yesterday, we're going to be giving away 10, that's right, 10 PlayStation 5 and or Xbox Series X games, one winner per game, and it's going to be the winner's choice on what game they want, whether that's be digitally or physically. We're going to be giving that those prizes away, which is going to cost us probably a little over $1,500, but it's our small way of giving back to the community that constantly gives to Double Barrel Gaming. And of course, with the world being the way it is, some people may not be in a position to get a said game or said system. So again, it's our small way of trying to kind of give back, so to speak. So as we continue with this conversation, let me just thank two people real quick. First of all, Rios J is here, and he drops an outstanding $2 super chat. Says would stay, but gotta go take my algorithm test. Well, listen, dude, good luck on your test, and if you want to listen to it on the replay, it will be available to you. Thanks for stopping by there, Rios. Super appreciate it. And of course, a very good friend, a very generous friend of the show, Robert Jones, drops an outstanding $15 super chat and says, at work, just wanted to say it is annoying that companies don't realize it sucks for one group has to pay the same as another group for less content. And dude, Robert, that's a great point. And we're actually going to start with that. Look, like I said in the opening, the word ramifications is a word that I think we need to discuss. And what do I mean by that? What is Boom talking about when he says ramifications of this move? Now, in hindsight, the group that is cheering this on, which is of course the Sony group, this is a power move by Sony. There's no other way to put it. It is, once again, their marketing prowess showing their fangs. They have not been in the conversation for quite some time, even though they're the market leader, because Microsoft has been doing certainly more right than wrong. And of course, Microsoft dropped the ball, depending on who you ask, with the Halo reveal. It's unfortunately received more negative PR than positive. And again, that to each individual person, the mileage is certainly going to vary. And my stance on it. I'm still super excited for it. But this Spider-Man news comes on the heels of yesterday, when Sony announced that some of their peripherals will not work with the PlayStation 5. Some will. If you have a PlayStation VR, you need an adapter for the camera. And of course, that brought some negative press towards Sony because, Microsoft has been very open and forward about what's backwards compatible for, and basically it's all of their peripherals, whereas Sony wants you to buy a PlayStation 5. Sony wants you to buy a DualSense. Sony wants you to buy all of these new peripherals. That is just their business model. But getting back to the conversation at hand, and ramifications is Spider-Man is not a second or third or fourth tier character. Spider-Man is the face of Marvel. There is, and it's a proven fact that the Spider-Man brand, not talking about Sony, has nothing to do with Sony. Spider-Man as a Marvel character is the most recognizable selling character in the entire roster. Yes, that means that he is more popular than Wolverine. Then, you know what? Pick any of your favorite heroes. The Punisher, Scarlet Witch, the Avengers as a whole. Spider-Man, they can't even hold his cup of coffee. And I'm not even trying to be an a-hole about it. I'm just straight up, that is the way it is. And when you hear that a multi-plat that is coming out for the PC, for the Xbox, and for the PlayStation 4 for the same price is going to have a character that is the face of Marvel. It's the face of the brand that one portion, 1/3 of the consoles out there are going to not have it. That's going to have it, and the other 2/3 are not. It's disheartening. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, again, what is Boom going to do? I said this on last night's Primetime Gaming. Well, quite simply, because I'm a fan, because I had extremely high aspirations and hopes for Crystal Dynamics' take on Marvel's The Avengers. I'm still keeping my $200 collector's edition because it comes with a Captain America statue, my favorite hero. Right. And I'm getting it for the Xbox, and I'm going to play through it, and I'm going to continue to play through it. Now, what I'm going to do is I am not buying another copy brand new. I am not giving Sony or Crystal Dynamics my money. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to buy Marvel's The Avengers, the PlayStation 4 version, probably in December, potentially even in the new year, secondhand from GameStop or from eBay, where that money is going to said person or said company that's not either of those two. Now, is that kind of spiting my nose, cutting my nose off to spite my face? I don't think so. But I'm not giving them my money because that's how you I guess you speak with your wallet. Now, I know there's a lot of people that were in last night's chat. And by the way, we had almost 600 people last night, which is awesome. There were a lot of people that were basically canceled their pre-order that were on the fence. As a matter of fact, one of the panel members, the Tempest Son, good friend of mine personally, but a good friend of the community, basically was on the fence, and he is now not buying the game because he found this move to be gross. So, Sammy, you had some interesting things to say prior to us going live regarding. Oh, and make sure that he's here.
Oh, I'm here. I'm always
okay.
here.
Now, I want you to go into it because you said that. You know what? I'm gonna let you go crazy with it. First of all, what are your thoughts on this, dude? Is this bad for gaming?
I mean, I think the whole idea of, it being bad for gaming really just kind of depends on who you ask, right? It's just one of those very divisive subjects. I don't think that there's necessarily a clear answer. If you ask the Sony people what they think, if they think it's bad for gaming, obviously they would say no, because, this is potentially going to bring more users onto PlayStation, and this is going to guarantee some users are buying a PlayStation that might have been thinking about switching over to Xbox. And, we know what Sony's business, what PlayStation's business model is. It's selling consoles and then selling games, right? They don't have as open or inclusive a business model as Xbox does. So, from Sony's side of things, from PlayStation supporters, obviously they would say that it's very good for gaming because it's helping them, right? And then of course you're going to have the people that aren't going to play Avengers either way, and so they're going to be indifferent. They're not going to care. And then the people over here on Xbox, on PC, on wherever else this game's coming out, they're ultimately, probably going to be very upset and think it's terrible for gaming because it's content that they're not going to get out of a game that they're paying the same price for. right? So as far as it being bad for gaming, I think that's, you know, depending on who you ask, you're going to get very, very different answers. But ultimately, you know, I am not a fan of exclusive content, you know, whether it be Xbox exclusive content, PlayStation exclusive content. I think I've made my stance on that very, very clear on this podcast.
Yes, you
multiple times.
Yep.
Multiple times. I'm not a fan of it. However, I will say, you know, from PlayStation, it makes sense. It's logical of why they would want to do this. They're, you know, because their entire business model, you know, is fueled off of exclusive content, right? And then also, you know, whenever I you know, look at this, you know, yes, Spider-Man is, you know, the number one character for Marvel, right? He's the most popular character in the United States, right? But at the end of the day, you know, I still look at this and I'm not sure how big of an effect this is going to play on you know, on the gaming industry as a whole, or even, you know, towards people going and buying a PlayStation exclusively to play Spider-Man in one game, right? I don't know how big of an effect this is going to be. And to dive a little bit deeper, I think it's also really, really interesting. I was reading an IGN article, and they actually mentioned this in the article, but it was also something that I thought of before. Is, you know, how big of an effect is this even going to have on the game? Because via the IGN article, it doesn't look like this character is going to come out until 2021, right? So I don't think it's going to be out on release. And then it's still up in air of if this is a timed exclusive, if this isn't a timed exclusive. And then, you know, it's from Crystal Dynamic, from the people who are making this game. I believe it's Crystal Dynamic. You know, how big of an effect is this going to have on the overall branching storyline of this game, right? So I think that there's a lot to take into consideration. You know, probably most importantly is how big is this decision really even going to be if we look at it in a critical manner?
Well, look, again, this is this is an onion that has a tremendous amount of layers. A good friend of the show, Thanaros, is in the chat, and he says, "I love Boom, but he's in his feelings about this." And I kind of I wrote back to him, and I can see your point. I can see your point, but I think that you have to wait for the conversation to unfold to say that I'm in my feels, because I'm going to do something that most are not. I'm going to buy this game twice, because I'm a fan. See, I would consider myself a diehard fan, probably more than most, because of my affection for the MCU and Marvel Comics as a whole. They hold a special place in my heart from the days of me being no bigger than my dad's knee, moving up and going to and I tweeted about this during Spider-Man Day. I remember going to the local Optimo in the Bronx, where, you know, you get your pack of cigarettes, you get your bubble gum, you can get the, you know, bottle of water, and on the rack was Marvel Comics, DC Comics. And I always, you know, as great as Superman is and was, and Batman, you know, is, I've always been a Marvel kid, and I've conducted myself as a Marvel guy basically my entire life. So in the feels, no, though I do have some questions regarding the move. And again, I use the word ramifications, and I'm going to get into the ramifications on how big they can be in momentarily. So, but I first want to go to Dreadpool. But Dreadpool, before I get to you, brother, let me just catch up with some of these outstanding, very supportive super chats that have come in. We have over here, Thanaros, there it is, dude. He says, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, anyone remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Tournament Fighters, Soul Calibur series, Banjo and Sonic Racing transformed? Console exclusive characters are nothing new. You know what? You are 1,000% right, because you bring up Soul Calibur. If you remember when Soul Calibur released, there were 3 exclusives. I believe, of course, for Nintendo, they had Link. I believe Microsoft had Spawn.
Yep.
Yes, Spawn, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for that, Dreadpool. And I don't really recall who the character was. It might have been someone from Tekken, if I'm not mistaken. That's a long time ago. So and Banjo being in, of course, the racing aspect of Sonic for the 360. 100%. Absolutely, Thanos, dude, you are spot on. But I'm going to come back around to your question, and I'm going to bring in what I have to say about it. But I want to hear from Dreadpool. Dreadpool, listen, you are very social media savvy, if you will, and you heard the outcries, you've heard the cheers, you've heard the jeers. We haven't heard much from Sony, to be honest with you, past the blog post. We have not heard from Crystal Dynamics. They have not addressed this at all. They have both gone dark. And I think that this is more negative press than there is positive press. But you know what they say, all press is never a bad, some people consider to be good press, bad press, never really a bad thing, because people are talking about your product. And they might be right on this, because everyone is talking about Crystal Dynamics game, which comes out in about a month. What are your initial thoughts on the deal?
Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth when it came to the bad press, because back in the 80s, everybody was on the Inquirer and oh, all this gossip stuff. And, a lot of them even said, if I'm not in the press, nobody knows. So even bad publicity is good publicity. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even this, as bad as it is for some people, or as good as it is for the others, depending on your side or what your thought process is when it comes to this, it's getting it out there. I mean, I literally was going to talk about this today by myself anyway. So it happened that, you were doing a show and here I am. And, here we are talking about this. Right. So, it has a factor in all this stuff. So it may not be a direct, correlation as to what they meant to do, but in all, I'm sure they're happy with it, even though they're getting bashed or whatever from a certain demographic. Okay. Do I like it? No. Do I understand it? Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to all the, it's like, think of it this way. You know how everybody's talking about Xbox and Game Pass and how everything's good to go, right? When you walk down in the mall and before the sickness, and you just go to the food court and, someone stand there and ask you if you want a bourbon chicken, right? You weren't sure where you're going. You're probably going to go to Charlie's, or you're going to go to Chick-fil-A or one of the other places that you probably hit up, right? And then they hit you with the bourbon chicken. What do? Sometimes you turn around and you change your mind. You go and get the bourbon chicken, or you go there and you don't get the bourbon chicken, but you get the orange chicken, or you get, you know what I'm saying? You get the egg roll. Just having that piece there can change your mind. Okay. So when you think of it like that, this is the what I was trying to put out was the lost my words. The good for gamers thing, you know what I'm saying? You didn't have to go there, but you got a sample of it. So doing something like that, is good publicity for them, right? But now put that same thought process on the Sony side. You can't have this bourbon chicken unless you taste it, and the only way to taste it is if you buy the console, and that's how you get the Spider-Man bourbon chicken, right?
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword depending on how you look at it, and how, so everybody can have their analogies, but yet you can change the narrative to fit your means. Okay. So do I like it? Yes, I said I do not, but I understand, because it's been in there, part of the industry for forever. Didn't we have this issue when Tomb Raider? Wasn't there?
Oh yeah, well, I'm actually going to bring that up, because again, this is we actually did have this issue with Tomb Raider. As a matter of fact, again, I talked about it last night on Primetime Gaming, and I'll say it again live on the air. And I don't think I actually said this publicly. It was probably privately, and I'll say it publicly now. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people. I actually was messaged by someone that was there. I'm not gonna reveal who this was. Okay, that saw this, what I'm going to talk about, transpire. And as a matter of fact, middle-aged gamer guy, Mag, newest addition to Primetime Gaming, he heard the same thing. So we're not lying. But when the Crystal Dynamics developers announced that this was going to be exclusive. Folks, I don't think that you realize how crazy that particular situation was. These developers were not allowed off of the stage, dude. Okay, they were literally. I'm not saying that the press pinned them against the wall like bullies. I'm saying that this was such a rabid situation that they could not get off the stage because people lost their shit. Okay, now people, meaning the PlayStation community, was unbelievably outraged. And what did I think of it at the time? I'm like, well, this sucks for gamers. This sucks if I was only one console owner because they're going to have to wait a year, right? And that same energy that was, Microsoft is the devil, Phil Spencer is the worst. That same energy is not being had right now. That same energy was not being had during the Final Fantasy VII year exclusive, right? So, I mean, folks, again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm a gamer. Listen, what happened with Final Fantasy VII? Am I waiting till next year to play it? No, I'm not. You guys know that. I bought the collector's edition, and it's sitting right here. And you know what? I enjoyed the H out of Final Fantasy VII. Now, did I beat it yet? No. It just got lost in the shuffle. But I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait on the game that I want to play. And you guys know that I'm a multi-console dude. But there are some things that you draw a line in. So I'll let you finish your point, Dreadpool.
Okay. So, like we said, right? We there was a petition to change that, but before that happened, or right around the same time, I think it was just after that. Okay, Night Trap did the same thing, right? Both of those games were backed by each respective company, right? Xbox backed Tomb Raider, so that way they can get it off the ground.
Yes, that is correct. Yes,
and Sony did the same thing for Night Trap. However, it also went on to Nintendo. Did it come over to Xbox? No. Was there like a mass hysteria over it? No. You know what I mean? I understand it's an older game, but yet again, like you said, Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, granted, it's just it's a silly character if you want to look at it like that, okay? It's just a character that somebody made up, all right? But at the same time, this isn't just a character to us. This is a beloved hero. This is something that represents something for us. So on the Xbox side, yeah, we want to play as Spider-Man. Guess what? We didn't get the chance to play as Spider-Man unless you went over to Sony. If you were on PlayStation, you got to play the Spider-Man game, right? Here you are again being locked out of Spider-Man. So yeah, I can understand the outrage when it comes to this. But has anybody filed a petition for any of this stuff? Not that I'm aware of. You know
listen. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a big believer in petitions. I think that they are white noise.
Exactly.
In my opinion, folks. Again, if you're a petition maker, I'm not pooping on your parade, so to speak, because that's not what I do here on this channel. But I think petitions, especially in a situation like this, is complete white noise, folks. The deal is signed. It's done. Your petition is not going. I'm not saying that it won't help in future decisions. But I think that, listen, I don't like this deal. But once again, I have to tip my hat to Sony's unbelievable reluctance to give an F. To be honest with you, and that's the reality. They are for getting exclusive content for their brand. You can say it, well, for their fans, but they want to win. And how do you win? You win by doing what the other guy will not do. And is it dirty? Sure. It's dirty as H. But you know what? It is what it is. This is why on Thursday, my critique and criticism of Microsoft's reluctance to do certain things is going to be out there. I hope that someone from Microsoft is listening for two reasons. One, they hire me to start making some decisions. Or at least be involved in the conversation for what the fans actually want. And two, what I think that they need to do moving forward. But you know what? Let me catch up on some of these unbelievable super chats, and then I'm going to give you my spiel. Chaos Might drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. Chaos Might, thank you for your constant generosity. He drops a $10 super chat and says, as Jim Sterling said, they're not marketing of how they are improving the content. They are marketing on how they are making other platforms crappier to make one platform look better. You know what, dude? If throw where Jim Sterling said that so I can read that, because that's pretty interesting. We have Michael Askew dropping a $5 super sticker. Thank you for being here, Michael. Definitely appreciate that. And let's see. We also have ATL drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this: I think the noise about this supports your thought process about a multi console household. Yeah, I think that this generation, not so much that people are going to be forced into doing it. I think that, look, not everyone could afford to do it. I am well aware of it. Gaming is expensive. But in my opinion, not having a wall in front of me saying that I can only play system X or P or S or whatever is better for me as a gamer. It makes me as a consumer feel more rounded, if you will, where I can, like I said, I'm not going to miss out on Spider-Man. I'm not going to do that because I'm a fanboy of Marvel. I am not going to cut my nose off to spite my face. I'm not doing it. Am I buying the game new day and date? No, I will not do that. Now, if I saw it new for $20, maybe I drop it down, but more than likely, I'm going to stick true to my word and I'm going to buy it used because I do not want to support this. I'm not going to miss out on the game. I'm not being full of shit here, folks. I'm telling you, I'm not missing out on the game. And maybe maybe I'm a part of the problem. And if that's the case, well, then I'm a part of the problem. I mean, I'll publicly admit it. But I am not going to miss out on a game that's one of my most anticipated games because of a crummy move. And again, I hear you if you're mad at that, but that's just my opinion. We have Sikio Yumi drops an outstanding $2 super chat. Thank you so much for being here as always. And they say removing content, not okay. Make Hulk exclusive to Xbox because I'm wondering if you're saying that because he's green.
Can I jump on that?
Please, absolutely.
Well, so like Sikio Yumi, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. But like, I don't really think Crystal Dynamic is removing content. They're just adding exclusive content. And like, but removing content would be making Hulk exclusive to Xbox. So
yeah, I don't think man.
Well, what's the part for removing or adding? Just because they showed it in the preview, does it mean that they are removing it?
Well, he's an Avenger. You know, I know that technically on paper, Spider-Man has been an Avenger, but he's not a mainstay Avenger. He has been a part of the Avengers for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't consider him an Avenger. I consider him to be his own character. The Avengers, Cap, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, Iron Man, Hawkeye. Those are your mains, just like the Justice League. You have your Trinity, you have your Martian Manhunter, you have Flash, you have.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think Spider-Man was set to be an Avengers on the Xbox and all platforms. I think it was intentionally added as a PlayStation exclusive.
I agree.
Whereas Hulk is added for all platforms. So if you made Hulk exclusive, then you would be removing content for other platforms.
No, I agree with you both, but I do have a question then. If we're talking, didn't they say something about crossplay with this game?
No, there's no crossplay. Nope.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask because I thought I saw
there's
somewhere.
No crossplay. No, it's going to be Xbox plays with Xbox, Sony plays with. You couldn't do it. If you're playing playing with a Sony dude and he swings into Spider-Man, you're going to throw your controller against the wall.
I believe you could technically do it because Minecraft on Nintendo, I think that there are exclusive skins from Nintendo, like a Mario skin, and you can still play Minecraft on Xbox with somebody who's playing it on Nintendo, and but you know what I mean. But you obviously don't have access to that skin.
No, you know why you have access, but you would have the code there.
Yeah, but you know why you couldn't do it for the Marvel Avengers? Because there's going to be dual power-ups where you're going to do, like, for instance, like if
Gotcha.
so you're going to be like, for instance, if the X-Men ever came in, they'd probably have the speedball with Wolverine. Someone from Marvel would be able to pick him up and throw him like a ball, and that would be something that would be baked into the game. So of course you couldn't do a 2-character team up with Spider-Man on the Xbox. Again, it's just crazy to even think about. But let me continue with the super chats and then give my point to this. Okay. We have Kirby O. Louise dropping an outstanding $5 super chat and says, what about ism over the past console exclusive content is not a valid argument. It was wrong then, and it's still wrong now. Well, listen, I agree with you. I think that locking content that is not. Look, let me just say this. People get mad at Sony for licensing out Spider-Man and making it exclusive. Don't get mad at Sony. Don't get mad. They made a business decision. They paid Marvel and Disney to license out that character. You know who you should be mad at? And I'm going to go into this more specifics on Thursday's show. You should be mad at Phil Spencer and Xbox. Why do I say that? Why am I turning into a Sony fan? Well, I've always been a Sony fan. Am I talking as a real person? I'm talking as a real person right now. If anyone that we should personally be mad at, if you're an Xbox only fan, you should be mad at Xbox, because that same deal could have been made with any Marvel character, and they chose not to do that. Now, why they have not made a move on that, I have no idea. I don't know what the licensing is. I'm not a business guy. I'm just a stupid guy with a microphone. That's all I am. Now, if this WB deal comes down, I'm going to say something. You might consider it wrong. If Microsoft spends $4 billion to get WB games, all of these studios, and somehow the Batman license is baked into this deal, which I believe it is going to be, and I believe the deal is already done. They're working on it right now. That's just my opinion. That's not fact. That is just Boomstick's opinion. I think you have to, I think on principle, on absolute principle, because Microsoft spent that kind of money, they have to make Batman exclusive to PC and Xbox. Now, you're going to say, wait a second, Boom, that's why you're having this show. You're upset. No. This is a multi-plat game coming out for 3 platforms, and one of these platforms is not like the other 2. You learned that in Sesame Street or wherever I heard that from. I believe it was Electric Company, right? So one of these is not the same as the others, right? It's the same game. It's the same story arc, at least for the first part of this 10-year plan. But it's not the same, because Spider-Man is going to add a different dynamic that you can't get on the other 2. Now, let me just continue with, of course, the super chats. We have Master Clowns. My God, dude, thank you for your outstanding generosity. He dropped $80 worth of super chats yesterday, and he starts today with another 20. Dude, thank you so much for the unbelievable support. He says, saying what's up to one of my favorite shows. Well, that's awesome of you to say, dude. I really appreciate that. That's ultra generous once again. Resident Link Gaming, someone relatively new to the community, but one that has been supporting Double Barrel Gaming very often, says, good afternoon, cast and chat at work. So we'll be listening and just wanted to drop my support. Well, thank you as always. Super appreciate that. And let me see. We have Rain G4, a very good friend of the show. He says, we always hear, I'm not buying Xbox to play that game. That is very true. That's a true statement. We also have JD Gamer. Hey, dude, there's another very generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says Microsoft should teach Sony a hard lesson. Don't poke the bear, and then they should literally go out and buy every AAA third-party exclusive for 2021. Well, they have the money to do it. JD Gamer drops another $2 super chat. Says screw it, and Microsoft buy them for the whole next generation. And then KS Might drops an additional $5 super chat and says, be mad at Square Enix and Disney. Disney owns the gaming rights to Spider-Man. That is very true. It is not Spencer's fault for Sony not for non-consumer friendly platform. No. Listen. I'm not saying you should be mad at Phil Spencer. Microsoft is not wrong in this scenario, folks. Take Microsoft out of the conversation. I'm only bringing up Microsoft as just a point of contention, that if Microsoft wanted a Spider-Man exclusive before the deal was done with Disney, they could have licensed out, pick any character, throw Captain America, Punisher, Daredevil. How about a fan favorite? Black Panther would be an amazing game, right? Why not license out character A and make a game, an exclusive game to your brand? Make that character the face of your brand. Because listen, folks, let's call a spade here, okay? You can say whatever you want about Nathan Drake and about Ellie and about, God of War, Kratos. Those are amazing games. But more importantly, they're amazing characters, but they're not the face of Sony. They're not the face of PlayStation anymore, folks. That ship has effing sailed. The face of your brand is Insomniac Spider-Man. That is the face of the PlayStation brand. Miles Morales, that amazing character that we're all going to be playing, at least I'm going to be playing next generation, hopefully this holiday, is going to be the face of the PlayStation 5 because the game looks amazing. Now, again, maybe it's not your bag. Maybe you hated Spider-Man. Okay, if you did, I absolutely loved it. It was a pinch from my game of the year, literally a pinch from my game of the year. And, I platinumed it. And again, if what they said is true, I'm going to be platinuming it a second time because I will be playing that PlayStation 5 up-reg free version that comes with Miles Morales. Again, I'm part of the problem. I proudly admit it. I'm part of the problem. But I will be platinuming both Miles Morales and Spider-Man once again, right? Okay, so keeping with my conversation that I talked about earlier, ramifications. This is where we get into the weeds, folks. Because right now it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man exclusive to the PlayStation version of Marvel's The Avengers, a multiplat. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just take, for instance, we don't know any of the locations where this is going to be an ever expanding, and I believe the industry is heading that way. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about that with Microsoft's IPs. That most of these games that are going to be coming out are going to be service-based, and we're going to see that more now than ever, especially with Game Pass, but more specifically with a lot of these other companies. And what do I mean by that? Not that they're looking to milk you for extra monies. I mean, there's going to be microtransactions for sure, but they have 10-year plans. This game, they've already said it, just like Destiny when it was first announced, had a 10-year plan. Crystal Dynamics has a 10-year plan for this game, for these characters. And what do I mean by ramifications is, let's just say for shits and giggles that they go to New York for whatever reason, right? There's a New York location. Is the Daily Bugle going to be absent from the PC and Xbox version because he's affiliated with Spider-Man in the Sony version? Is there going to be an entire part of a game, like a New York level, that will only show up in Sony? Well, that's a great question. And if that, in fact, is the case, wow, that blows. So we said Spider-Man, right? Well, Spider-Man's rogue gallery, quite frankly, is the best in the business, only coming in as a neck-and-neck tie to Batman's rogue gallery. Two of the best rogue galleries in comic books. End of story, no questions asked. I'll challenge anybody. Spider-Man, so what happens next? That's my question, Zemi. Do we get Doc Ock in the PlayStation 4 version? Do we get the Vulture? Do we get the Sinister Six in the not on the Xbox version, but on the PlayStation version? Is that what's going to happen next? Are we going to get a Black Cat mission that can only be played on the PlayStation 4 version? See, this is where we get into the weeds, so to speak. And I don't know if I mean, again, this could be huge. Zemi, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so like I was kind of mentioning before, is like I don't think this is going to have huge, absolutely huge, mind-breaking, mind-shattering ramifications for the game. And what I mean by that is, we have to remember that this game is third party. It is going to other places besides PlayStation. So if they do add New York and they have the Daily Bugle in the PlayStation version and just a random one in the not PlayStation version, that's just extra work onto the developer. And it's even more extra work to have Spider-Man implemented super far into like the main storyline, because that means you're going to have slightly different or drastically different main storylines depending on which version that you play. And I don't think that the developer is going to be willing to do that type of thing. So I think what's going to happen is you're probably going to be able to play Spider-Man in the main storyline. He's going to have his own cutscenes and stuff like that, but he's not going to be a majorly important character in the main storyline. I think for Spider-Man, you're going to get some more exclusive missions and content where he, is interacting with characters from his own universe, and maybe even characters from, the regular Marvel universe, like Captain America, Hulk, and all that different stuff. But I think for the most part, what you're getting with the Spider-Man exclusivity is exactly that. It's going to be exclusive and in a way separated from the main storyline of the game, because the developers are going to do what is going to take the least amount of work possible. And I just don't think it's going to be worth implementing Spider-Man into every single aspect of the game and having him as a major character in the main storyline of the game, because it's just going to be way too much work for developing for the other platforms as well. So, as for the ramification, I just don't think it's going to have that huge of an impact. Of course, you're going to be able to play Spider-Man online with your friends. And, of course, you're going to have missions that solely do with Spider-Man. But I don't think it's going to majorly impact the main storyline of the overall branching game.
Yeah. Okay. Listen. I mean, I can't argue your point, dude. You make a lot of sense. Yeah. And again, we don't know. The one thing that I keep seeing, and I guess this is kind of like people like taking their ball and going home, right? And what I mean by that is, I don't mean insulting. I mean like they're just. People, I've been reading that people are like, well, just a second, Boom. We don't even know if this game is going to be popular in September. I mean, when in early 2021, meaning that the game comes out on September 4th, right? The demo goes live for PlayStation, which I got my code already, and it's already in the system, folks. So I'm playing on Friday. Yes, I am. And I'm not a fraud. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be playing the shit out of that demo. And I'm going to play it on the Xbox, and I'm going to play it all the way until I can't play it anymore because I'm a big old nerd. That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But one of the things I keep reading is people are unsure if this game is even going to be a conversation come March of 2021. And I think what they're implying is that this game may not have the staying power or the legs, so to speak, to even warrant a conversation about Spider-Man being exclusive. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I 100% disagree. And that to me is insinuating that you want to see the game fail. I never want to see any game fail, because when a game fails, people lose their jobs. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see this game thrive. I want to see them add more characters and more missions. And I want to see a Secret Wars or Secret Invasion. I want to see potentially, a Civil War storyline. I want to see an X-Men versus Avengers storyline. I mean, you want to put. I mean, again, I don't buy as many books as I used to. I just don't. There's just not enough money or time in the world, especially when you run 3 shows. But I still have a tremendous amount of love for Marvel as a group that tells incredible stories. So I would love to see some of their classic stories come forward. And the way that happens is if this game thrives. And I think it's going to thrive. I think that because there's a multiplayer aspect to it, that are going to have drop zones, that are going to basically a la Destiny, except not having 3 people, it's going to be 4, and you're going to be able to play with freaking Marvel heroes. I mean, that's awesome. But you know what? Enough of my shenanigans. Let me just catch up on some of the super chats, and I'm going to bring Dreadpool into the conversation. And first of all, I got to say, folks, the super chats are just so incredible. It's I don't even know what to say. The generosity continues to blow me away. So thank you so much. And I'll say it at the end of the show, but I'll say it again. Pixel Bit G, a very good friend of the show, he says this after dropping a $5 super chat. Said it before, and I'll say it again. Microsoft, if they buy WB, needs to lock down Batman and Mortal Kombat, PC on Xbox only. So sad, too bad. Fire with fire. You know, look, I have to agree with that tactic. Because that's not being a D-bag, that's being a businessman. How do you move people to Game Pass? And I talked about this with King on Breakfast at Boom. And I talked about this with the Iron Lords behind closed doors. Nothing secretive. I'll say it out loud. If you are able to secure WB games and you could somehow put the Mortal Kombat 12 and Batman whatever on your banner in Game Pass day and date, what do you do as a business company? What do you do as just a business? You make people come over to your service. That's why this is a power move for Sony, but one that I would not have a problem with if Sony owned Spider-Man, which they do not. And if people keep going, are all wrong about this. Sony only owns the film rights. Folks, if you're going to come at me, please use some goddamn logic and go and search on the internet, and they will tell you who owns what. It's a simple Google search. They only own the film rights. That's it. This deal is probably baked into, and again, no proof because I wasn't in the room. I didn't sign the contract. This deal could have potentially either been just signed or been baked into the movie deal that Sony has with Kevin Feige and Disney, where they wanted, obviously it's important for the MCU, the film aspect, to have Spider-Man. Okay? They have him for 3 more films, from what we understand, from what we're hearing from the sites that I listen to, the YouTubers that I listen to. There's already another deal that's done that they haven't talked about because Comic-Con was canceled, and that was going to be where they announced a much bigger, larger deal. This could have been a part of that deal. Hell, I don't know. But Dreadpool, add to the points that Zemi had to say. What do you got to say about this, dude?
Sorry, I was muted there.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, I completely blanked out what he said, but I was on the same page. I was listening to him.
Zemi, just refresh his memory.
Basically, it was the idea that Spider-Man is going to be an exclusive character, obviously, but he's not going to impact the main storyline that much. He's going to have his own storylines, for himself, right. And of course, you can probably play as him in the main storyline. But that's like the main idea, because the developer is going to be making this content for multiple platforms, not just PlayStation, and to incorporate Spider-Man into a very, very strong, meaningful way into the main storyline is just going to take way too much development time and resources and money whenever you're developing for other platforms that, that Spider-Man's not a part of, right? That was just kind of my main idea.
Yeah, that's where I'm on the same page. I do see the same thing. Why we, if they're air quotes too lazy to optimize for one console over the other, to at least give both consoles the best that they can be, the game for each console, the best that it can look on each console, then do you think they would be too lazy, again in air quotes, to create something for Spider-Man? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're on the same page, the same process. And then what happens? I mean, so now you're saying I don't have a character, and then in the future, when Sony does get the character, that we won't have the same missions, because in order for them to have Spider-Man to be part of that story, to have, or at least something that would involve Spider-Man, to make sense with that story. And here we are on Xbox or PC or even Stadia, that they're looking at it going, this story makes no sense, because part of the key story would be Spider-Man.
So you're suggesting that it could potentially be disjointed.
Yes. Or not even put in. So here, so either they put something involving Spider-Man and we don't get it, or they have to sit there and we get something, and like you said, it makes no sense because we're missing a key character, because now they've changed something, and it doesn't, like, the lines don't line up, the storyline doesn't sit right, the vocabulary between the interaction of characters don't line up, because they're missing that conversation that Spider-Man would have had with them. So that's the questioning I have still, even though it's a year out. I kind of want to bring something else in here. It was on the PlayStation quote, right, on the PlayStation blog. One of the quote was, and I'm going to just cut it towards the end, he will be available at no additional cost to the owners of the base game, exclusively on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they highlighted no additional cost.
Yeah, every character is going to be free. All missions, all characters in the 10-year plan for this game are all confirmed by the developers and Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix as being 100% free if you own the game.
Right. So and that falls back into the timed exclusive. Now, here's the other thing. If it's is it Spider... What? Stop talking. Sorry about that. Computers, phones like to listen. Now, when we get Spider-Man, we're going to get Sony's version of Spider-Man, obviously, because that's what we're doing. Would there be a time in this platform's age that they're trying to push this out with continued storylines? Would there be a time in there that eventually Spider-Man, a different version of Spider-Man, would come out that would be acceptable? See, that's the other.
I mean, let me tell you something, Dreadpool. That's a fantastic point. As a matter of fact, I kind of want to touch on that, because you're asking the question, and I think that it might be shit, man. Maybe you should be the host. That might be the question of the day, in my opinion. Because
I like to ask.
No, it's a fantastic question. Does this somewhat pigeonhole Crystal Dynamics from telling a specific story arc in this Avengers game, because Spider-Man is only available on one platform? I honestly would like to. I would have to say this could potentially bring some disjointment to this game, because there's no Spider-Man in two other versions and there's only one in the other.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't, because, I mean, I don't know this. This is just speculation, but typically what makes the most sense is what's probably going to happen. And what makes the most sense is that Spider-Man's not going to have a huge role in the main story.
It's hard to say, Zemi. Spider-Man he's Spider-Man, dude.
Well, I understand that, but it's just going to take way too much resources and times, and then you're talking about having two different universes per platforms, and it's just way too much for almost any development team to probably really even do.
Listen, I hear your point, and you're knocking it out of the park. But if you told me that Hawkeye was exclusive to the PlayStation, I'd be upset too, because I actually kind of like Hawkeye because he's a human being. He's only set different because of his skill set, not because he's a superhuman. But Spider-Man is Marvel. Marvel is Spider-Man. It's hard to even fathom that character that embodies what Marvel Studios is not on two other platforms. It seems, honestly, if you would have told me this I don't know, 6 months before this actually happened, I would have had you committed. I mean, there's no way that they allow this to happen.
It may not be right. It may not be, what everybody wants, but it's the cards that Crystal Dynamic, were given, and then that's what they have to play with, right? But once again, I just don't see the main storyline being fractured, something differently happening on the PlayStation just because of that one exclusive character. I think that one exclusive character is going to have exclusive content that can only be done with him. And I think that is going to make the most sense. Like, as a developer, they're going to do what makes the most sense to put out the product as quickly as they can for everyone. Right.
And that's what I'm saying is if they make the base game and the base storyline for the base game that excludes Spider-Man, and yet they make another storyline that includes Spider-Man, they just made a separate storyline that is only available on PlayStation.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Would they want to do all that work just for one console when they can spread it across that? And that's why I said earlier with air quotes, because now yet again, you're not just limiting a character, you're limiting a storyline or something that character would have exclusively to itself or within the group that anybody else that has this group, because they don't have that character, they cannot play that mode.
Well, you know what I'd like to bring into the conversation that I don't think I didn't think about until I'm reading a lot of the chats. Big shout out to Michelle Alexandria. She's a good friend of the show and she's always here. And she said in her comment in the chat that she only owns a PlayStation 4, but she's tired of the anti-consumer crap. And this is coming from someone that only owns a PlayStation, folks. And again, to be honest with you, if you look at the general consensus, okay, not picking on a particular, not saying there's anything wrong with the fanboys. Listen, I'm a fanboy of Marvel. Is there anything wrong with me? No, it's just what I like. And if you're a PlayStation only fan and you're cheering this on, I can't blame you. This is a big win for Sony. It's no 100%, but the general consensus, when you go online and you look on Reddit and you look on the IGN forums and the Kotaku forums, most people that are talking about this without using all caps and yelling to the heavens that they either hate this or Sony has won the world once again, most people find this to be egregious because of who he is. Again, folks, we could chase our tails all day long. I'm just saying that this isn't a second, third, or fourth tier character, right? This isn't the X-Force and the lowest, newest member that no one even understands who the hell they are. Who's that person in the corner? Oh, yeah, they're new. That's Johnny. Bring him on in. No, we're talking about the face of Marvel as an entirety, not being a part of a game that is a multiplat. See, that in itself is where the problem lies. But you know what? Let me... I want to kind of touch on something that with Square Enix, their wording is very suspicious in times. And I want to touch on something as we close in on 400 people. First of all, the fact that we even have that many people here is unbelievable because I had no advertising time. I literally was at a doctor's appointment with family, listened to Young Ye's awesome video, got inspired, and here we are, 60 minutes, and there's 400 people here. That's unbelievable. So thank you. We have JD Gamer once again dropping an outstanding additional $5 super chat and says Microsoft should understand that if they can't expand their market past their core gamer, if they can't win over the PlayStation community, the community simply won't support them. And that's a great point. You if you want PlayStation folks who might have at one point been Xbox folks and moved over for power and price in the year of disaster, 2013, as we know it, you're not going to get them back if you can't bring them back with something special. Again, exclusives for Xbox, Fable, all of these great games that are coming. That's going to bring fans, no doubt about it. People, but again, like I said, I'm banging this drum. I think it's going to be more of a multi-plat generation this upcoming generation than ever before. JD Gamer, my goodness, dude, he drops an additional $10 super chat. Thank you for your generosity. He says they will lose their console warriors, and the launch of the X1 and PS3 should have taught them. They should have taught them that. Like it or not, console warring is a sport, and PlayStation and Xbox are the team. So understand that it's about to make money, like PlayStation. I mean, again, what he's saying is the truth. Sikyo Yumi drops another $2 super chat and says, "This makes me sad. Phil, buy WB ASP, lock up Batman. They need to do something." And JD Gamer, once again, my goodness, major point. He drops another $5 super chat and says this, major point. You can't be the Netflix of gaming without exclusives, because Netflix has plenty of exclusives content, both first and third party content. And that is the point of the day. That's a fantastic point. Harpy Dreams, thank you for being here. And more importantly, thank you for your outstanding $5 super chat. Says, I guess if Microsoft got WB Games and Batman, they would make Batman exclusive. They are more consumer friendly and would keep it multi-platform. You know that's listen. That's
I agree with that statement.
You know what? You would agree with it because you were against. Listen, from a business point of view, if you spent $4 billion, right? And you wanted to make your money back, which they would, like they did with Minecraft. I honestly agree that they would probably keep these games multi-plat. And why do I say that? Well, because the Xbox crowd and potential Xbox consumers would be able to get Batman and Mortal Kombat 12 and whatever else they make in Game Pass day and date for no additional cost of nothing but their $15 a month. Where if you are buying this on Sony's platform or on the PC through Steam or something that you didn't have Ultimate Game Pass, you'd have to pay $60, potentially $70. So do I think they should make Batman exclusive? No, I would. If I paid that kind of money, then yes, I would make that exclusive to sell consoles and my service.
See, I think it would make more sense for them to release Batman third party. That way they can recoup a lot of money, and they're going to make a crap ton more money by selling it on PlayStation and Steam and wherever we'll have it. I mean, look at Sea of Thieves and look at Grounded on Steam right now. It's doing so well.
As a matter of fact, that's funny. We're going to be talking about that on
Absolutely.
Thursday show. They have 4 of the top 10 games in there through Microsoft Publishing.
But what I think that they should do is have exclusive content for that Batman game. Now, I'm not a supporter of that. I don't want them to do it, but I think that would make more sense to have an exclusive Batman skin, maybe one exclusive mission that you can only play on, Xbox Game Pass, but then still sell the game everywhere so you can make a lot of profit off of it, but still have that little bit of exclusive content.
I mean, again, what you're saying makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But then again, it would bring the same conversation the same subject into the conversation. Oh, this one has exclusive content. That one doesn't. It's not fair. I can't play it. Listen, I don't know if there's even an answer for this, folks. I don't know what Microsoft needs to do. I'm going to tell you what I think they need to do. And again, who the hell am I? I'm nobody with a mic, but a dude with a microphone who loves Xbox and loves gaming as a whole and will support multiple brands. But tune in Thursday for that. I mean, look, I before we get on out of here, because this was only supposed to be an hour, we're probably going to run 90 minutes. So folks, hang around a little. We're going to be a little bit longer. This is where I want to close out, though, and I want to get the opinion of the chat. And I want to get the opinion of the 2 panel members I have here. The one thing that Square Enix has been very good at doing is when it comes to working with Sony is their wording. And they're not backed into a corner where like Crystal Dynamics was at the time, where they were literally up on stage, couldn't get off stage until they literally told the press that, yes, it's a year exclusive, because it was supposed to remain a secret. We saw this happen with Final Fantasy VII, right? And what happened after all of the there was a tremendous amount of outrage. The question kept getting asked, not just by the fans, but the press started asking the questions, because the fans started to question the press, and the press felt pressure, and then in turn, if they want to sell their clicks and their papers, they needed to press Square Enix. And what wound up happening? Now you can say that this was accidentally done. You can say it was done accidentally on purpose. You can call it a controlled leak. You can call whatever the F you want to call it. But all of a sudden, the box art for Final Fantasy VII found its way to the interwebs, and it showed exclusive for PlayStation 1 year. Shut everybody up. Like, oh shit, it's coming to PlayStation for a year. My God, I don't have a PlayStation. I'm going to pull my hair out. Or like Boom, I'll buy the collector's edition here and I'll buy it on the Xbox because I'm a nerd. That's what I do, right? I'm gonna play through the game twice. One of my favorite games of all time. But is that this case? Is that something that was roped into this deal? Is Spider-Man? Because I'm going to be honest with you, folks. From a business point of view, for Sony, this is genius. This is that massive 24-inch Python marketing arm that I'm always talking about, right? Again, maybe Sony isn't your brand. Maybe you hate them, but you got to tip your cap. You got to tip your cap to the aggressive behavior behind their marketing. It's the reason why they're the market leaders. Remember, this is how you trade games, right? That 2-minute video won the generation for them. Masters of marketing. So this is again power move. So here's my question, and I'll start with Zemi. Zemi, is there still a shot that Spider-Man, the face of Marvel, the face of Disney, could potentially come to the other platforms, potentially a 1-year exclusive? And they're just not saying it. Again, this is 24 hours ago we heard about this. Yeah. Sent the internet on fire. Could this be a Final Fantasy scenario?
I mean, absolutely it could. I mean, I don't really know. I think it maybe has a little bit less likelihood than a Final Fantasy, kind of thing, because Spider-Man is kind of Sony's thing. I mean, I understand they don't own full rights, but it still is.
When you think about it, but you said something right there, Zemi, and it's true to my point when I started this podcast.
Yeah.
When you think of Sony, do you think of Nathan Drake? Do you think of God of War? No. You think of Spider-Man. You do.
I do think of, like, whenever I think of Sony, I automatically think of God of War, Last of Us, Uncharted. Like, that is what I think of. But, that's my personal... that's what I, have like an emotional impact to. That's what I've actually played from that side. But I think all in all, I mean, we don't even know if it has a timed exclusive. That information has not been released. It very well might, or it might not. But I think it's also really important to remember that we don't know all the facts. We don't know exactly what this means. We know Spider-Man's going to be exclusive to PlayStation, but we don't know how big of an impact that's going to have on the main story, if it will at all. We don't know how much content Spider-Man's even going to get. Is he going to get that continued 10-year experience like the rest of the game is? Or is he going to be more of a, one release kind of and done? Is he going to get one, decent sized release where he gets, a couple of missions and then is he going to be done? Is the developer not going to want to continue him because it's not in their it's not in their interest to do so, right? We really don't have a lot of information, but as far as the timed exclusive thing goes,
right now we're hanging out in speculation town.
Yeah, but as far as the timed exclusive thing goes, I think it's up in air. I think it might be, it might not. The situation is a little bit different from the Final Fantasy situation. But yeah.
But is it?
I think it is, yeah, because I mean I think it is because Sony is getting this exclusive deal with for Spider-Man in this game, and we know how they feel about Spider-Man. We know that Spider-Man is a huge marketing factor for them, and so I think it might be in Sony's interest to not have a timed exclusive, to have just full unlimited exclusive.
Again, folks, speculation town. We have no idea. The nerd side of me would love to find out that it's eventually coming to the Xbox and the PC. And you know why the nerd in me would want that? Because I don't have to buy the PlayStation version, because that means I'm going to have to play through the game twice. Now, if the game is as good as I think it's going to be, then I won't mind it. I've done it with Destiny. I've done it with The Division. I mean, I've done it with multiple games that I bought because I had friends on one, friends on the other. They didn't want to come over. They didn't want to buy. So I bought the game twice. I've done it with several games. I did it with Resident Evil 7. I did it with Resident Evil 3. I'll probably do it with Resident Evil 8 because Resident 8 has VR, the PS version, and the regular one, has nothing. So I'm going to play it on the Xbox because it's my console of choice. But am I going to miss the VR version? No, I'll just buy the game twice. So it's an interesting theory that you're bringing up. We don't really know. You're 100% right on that. So right now, Speculation Town says we couldn't tell you. Real quick, got to shout out a couple of people here. We have first of all, Errol Channer drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, cracking show. He's glued. Well, thanks, dude. Super appreciate the support. But more importantly, the kind words. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And of course, we have to shout out our moderators, keeping these nasty streets clean. Lethal Papa, being the sheriff that he is, has been doing his due diligence to make sure that you can come here and hang out and just enjoy yourself. So thank you for all that you do there, Lethal. And of course, joining him, UK Dangerous. I don't know if he's in. I haven't seen him, but he might be lurking in the shadows. And of course, the Indie Gamer in there, and Dragon Wolf and a few others. Thank you so much for keeping these streets safe. But Dreadpool, let me move the question on to you. Now, again, Speculation Town, we have no idea. But Square Enix is notorious for keeping, especially when they work with Sony, their deals very close to the vest. I'm going to be honest with you. I understand that this is a mega move for Sony. In my heart of hearts, I don't know if the game could exist without Spider-Man in the other versions. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't see it happening, only because of who he is. I think, and maybe it's the hopefulness in me that it's going to be a times exclusive, and they're just not saying anything. Like, they're being like real D-bags about it. Like, you know what? It's our business deal. We paid for it. F you, fans. And they're making their fan base excited because they got the character locked down. What are your thoughts on this? Is there a chance potentially that this is some sort of a straight up exclusive for life? Or is this some sort of a time exclusive that they're just not talking about?
I think just like they did with Final Fantasy.
I agree. Yep.
They took it down. They took it, and they're it's a business deal. You know what I mean? So if you can play misdirection, just like that little quote I read earlier, and the direction I was headed to earlier was what if this is Sony's Spider-Man, and then eventually the Spider-Man will be out, but you won't have Sony's, like Zemi had stated earlier. You can play Mario on skins on Minecraft, but you can't bring it over to PlayStation or Xbox. So you could still interact with those guys, and that's the thing. And if you're going to have Spider-Man, if you're already going to write the code to have Spider-Man there for one console, you don't think he's already in the code for the other consoles?
I agree.
You can't build two separate ones. You can, but it's usually a cross-generational. It only works on this gen this way, and then this next gen this other way. That's usually what happens. But when you're on the same generation, they're both on the x86 architecture, it would make no sense. So the code would be there. It's just basically having it active. Even right now, they're still finding code in Infinity 3.0 for Disney, right? They found Iron Man. They found all these characters that they've been able to go through and unlock and unhack and mod it to be able to play those things. Okay, that's because it's in the code. It was already there in the system. So this would be pertaining to the same thing. If you're going to make it for Sony, you're going to have it here. So why not just put a different skin on it? It's not Sony's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man 20-something. You know what I'm saying? It could be one of the multiverse Spider-Mans. So it could be something like that. There's always a possibility of that. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that right now, like we said before, bad publicity, right? It spreads like wildfire. So something like that would be great, because now you're on the mindset that Sony's the only one that's going to have it, and that's what Sony wants. Is it a bad business deal, or is it bad shady deals or anything like that? No, it's a business deal. They're paying money, and whether you think it's shady or not, or trickery or thievery or whatever, they're paying money. They're paying money. It's not that they're doing anything. Now, the marketing, that's the true thing, is what they each put in the marketing. If nobody answers, then nobody knows nothing. If somebody says something, it could be twisted, or it could be understood the wrong way. Like I said, when it said, what was it? No additional cost, right? That was highlighted. We already knew that any additional characters were not going to be charged. They were just going to come in when they release them. So why would Sony, the Sony blog, highlight that part of it? Right? So, and then it says, exclusively on PlayStation. So is it that Spider-Man that's exclusive on PlayStation that we know of for now, and it won't come out till 2021, and then sometime in the middle of 2021 or 2022, because didn't they say they were going to push this out for years?
Well, the Spider-Man's supposed to launch in the first quarter of 2021. That's when he's coming to PlayStation.
Right, and they were going to support this game multiple years.
10 years plan. That's what they said.
So in that 10 years, you don't think at some point in time, and I would say sooner rather than later, to reinvigorate the game, especially... That's what's going to happen, right? You're going to play the game. It's going to stall out. Then you're going to get Spider-Man. So what do you think is going to happen? Sony's going to take advantage of that, because the only place to play it is on Sony. And most people will forget by that time until it pops up. Okay, so you've played the game. You've done it whatever you want. And so the hardcore will still be there. Like any game, there's certain people that will always play it. And I mean, there was people still playing on the original Xbox until they shut down those servers. So
that's true. That's
true. You will have those dedicated people that will be playing it forever. Now, what happens in, let's say, once this Spider-Man deal goes down, Spider-Man's released in 2021, the hype's going to be up again, right? They're going to be releasing characters as they go. So as they go, that's the whole theory, is with all the characters that they have, as they release them in their time periodic calendar that they want to do. I don't know if it's going to be quarterly, if it's going to be monthly. We don't know. Yet again, it's speculation town, right? But when they do that, you don't think Spider-Man only here is going to jump that up again. So it's going to push that the market over towards PlayStation. So whoever didn't get it already, guess what? You forgot about it. Now it's a little bit cheaper. Now you can get the base game with all this stuff and Spider-Man. So yet again, you're pushing everybody through the whole time towards PlayStation. After that, once it's done, Spider-Man can come out 6 months later.
That's true, and that's probably what's going to happen. It makes great business sense what you're saying.
Yes, and I'm watching here Dues Machiato, Spider-Woman, right? They could do something like that. You got Spider-Gwen. I mean, you got so many different characters of Spider-Man that you can just put in there. It doesn't have to be Spider-Man. Who said it had to be Peter Parker? Who said it had to be Miles Morales? It could be one of the other characters.
I mean, look,
skin, right? It's just a skin. So it may fit in as a temporary thing, so you won't get the actual Spider-Man. You can get one of the alternate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't be happy with that. That's just me. I mean, that's like getting frills. Again, Spider-Gwen, great character. Miles, fantastic character, but Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So for me, if you threw some skin in there with a set that was similar to what Spider-Man does, it'd be like no frills. But that's just my opinion on it, and I'm not taking away from the other characters. Like for instance, Miles having his own game. People, DLC, you can call it whatever you want. It's his own game. It's fine. It's gonna be great. And I said this in my tweet when I first read this. I wrote in my tweet, if it was Tom Holland's depiction, No problem. I hear Sony wants to keep that, with Sony. I get it. Miles Morales, their depiction from, Into the Spider-Verse, or the Miles Morales from the Spider-Man game 2018, not a problem. If it's the Spider-Man outfits with the white on the sides and the white spider, of course that's not going to show up on the Xbox, because that's an Insomniac property, right? That's a Sony property. You wouldn't expect that to be in an Xbox. Of course you wouldn't, right? Even if you want to take it to another level, the outfits, and there was quite a few of them from the Insomniac game. Maybe those outfits aren't available on the Xbox version and only on the PlayStation version. I hear you. That to me that makes sense. It was in the Insomniac 2018 game. Why would that be on the PC or on the Xbox side? Xbox could just be the regular, plain old Jane blue Spider-Man, and obviously they wouldn't keep the Symbionite one as a multiplat. That would probably be a costume you could buy, but all the stuff that Insomniac created for their game would stay exclusive to Sony. That makes perfect sense. The character itself, only because of who he is. Man, I mean, again, if you would have asked me this question 10 days before this, I'd have been like, you're freaking crazy if you think that he is going to be on one platform and not the other. Boy, would I have been freaking wrong. But listen, folks, we're closing in on 90 minutes. This was meant to just be a conversation. I think we handled it pretty well. I think we asked a couple of pretty intriguing questions. I think that the chat was completely on fire. Lots of really, really good banter. Obviously, most of the chats usually are. We have a bunch of folks that come here to support this channel, and we're most here and had really good opinions. Sorry I didn't get a chance to actually, because one of my things I enjoy doing is saying hello to everybody. I got to as many people as I could get to. Trust me when I say, thank you everyone. It's not being facetious in any way. It's really, I just didn't get a chance to welcome everyone individually, which is something I like to do, and I will definitely get better in doing that. But let's get into the outros, get everybody out of here. And Zemi, we'll start with you. First of all, thanks so much for jumping in. This was a late minute, impromptu show, but you showed up and you had a lot to say. Really, really good, thought-provoking stuff as usual, which is why you're one of the co-hosts to the Xbox Factor podcast. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your chef work, which I believe we could be hearing something soon. And, listen, you got a talent for cooking, brother. You should be putting this out there for everyone. And you've been doing it not as much as I would like. I mean, the shrimp thing wasn't really my bet because I'm allergic to shellfish, but I still thought it looked tasty. Do me a favor, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your other works of culinary art.
Well, you could do the shrimp thing with the chicken thing, and it'd still be absolutely delicious. But
what? That's actually, you're right. We can swap it out. So we'll get rid of the shrimp and just throw chicken in there. And there you go.
Yeah. but man, thank you so much for throwing me the invite, and my pleasure hopping on here and talking about this really hot subject. I think we really in a way kind of only dived into really half of the subject, but fortunately we're going to dive into the other half, and that's Microsoft and what they should do to maybe kind of counteract this on Thursday's show, which I'm really excited about as well. But yeah, if you guys want to, definitely go check out my YouTube channel. It's called Zimmy Games. I do a bunch of gaming stuff over there, gaming news, reviews, tutorials, unboxings, let's plays, all that different stuff. And I might be getting ready to launch a new YouTube channel, and it might be about cooking, but I'll let you guys know about that, in a few more weeks or so. And then you guys can also check me out on Twitter. It's under the same name, at Zimmy Games. Whenever I post a video, I post on there. I, like, retweet, all the traditional, typical stuff that you expect people to do. But also, if you, listen to me, this show, if you liked what I had to say, or even if you maybe absolutely hated what I had to say, feel free to throw me a DM on Twitter. I always love interacting with the community, hearing different opinions. Really, I think help shape, my opinion. And I think, most people should kind of listen to other voices, and so I love to do that, and I love interacting with the community. So definitely feel free to hit me up in my DMs. And Boom, like I said, always a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you as always for being here. And last but certainly not least, Dreadpool again dropped us in late, last minute. Glad that you could be here to give us your point, because you usually are really on your game when you start talking about which is why we love having you here, because you really are in tuned with gaming and the community, which is great. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, potentially interact with you on DM, and also check out your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate everything that you've included me on here, even last minute. Same thing with Zemi, it's always been great pleasure. I do have to tell you, though, when you make paella, it has a whole bunch of stuff in there, and I've actually made paella, and I took out all the shellfish, and I only cooked it with chicken.
Nice.
Okay, so it works. It may be a faux, like a faux bar thing, but it works. And
Heresy.
I don't eat crab meat, but guess what? I made crab legs for my wife, and she was like, "How? If you don't eat this stuff, how do you cook it?" And I'm, better than most of these restaurants. So,
It's the love of cooking, brother. That's all it is.
That's all it is. It's a lot of research and finding the right people to mimic and learn from, right? So same thing here, but with what we do with YouTube. So yet again, I appreciate the invite, and it's always awesome to see everybody in the chat, even in an impromptu day. Nobody thought that we were going to be here, and seeing over 300 in here was awesome to see everybody interacting. So always, you can find me on Twitter at Dreadpool, the O's are zeros, and I don't know if you know this, but I passed the 100 subscriber mark on my YouTube channel. So now
Nice,
I have a custom URL.
Nice.
So now you will find me at Dreadpool when you look it up, because apparently some people were having issues. So
that's funny you should say that. Someone actually said I should have a custom URL, and I don't know why I don't. I'm closing in on 3 years. How don't I have a custom URL? I have no idea.
Well, you should have one. So, but that's it. It's YouTube/C/Dreadpool. Boom, it's done. So it's better than all the mumbo jumbo that you can't read.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that, and it's great having you on today's show, man. Thank you so much for that. And real quick, as we get on out of here, Dream Eater just became a channel member. Hey, dude, thank you so much for that. It is truly and greatly appreciated. And folks, listen, if you enjoyed today's show, drop us a message, whether in DM or of course, on the YouTube. Let us know what you're thinking. Listen, if we don't have to agree, but be polite, folks. You got to see some of the messages I get. I just delete them because they're just not even worth reading. And I think everyone's opinion matters. But if you want to come at us, do it in a respectful manner, folks. I mean, listen, we're just humans, just like you, right? We're just people. And, you got to remember that you're talking to people that are donating their time to put on these shows because we love this community and we love gaming. So if you're going to have a conversation, do it in a manner that we can have a conversation. Don't use all caps. Don't use curse words. Don't, be, aggressive or abusive on these messages, because you're never going to get a proper answer. All you're going to do is get deleted or blocked. So don't do that. But folks, thank you so much again for hanging out with us for 90 minutes talking Spider-Man. And again, tune in this Thursday to hear my critiques and what I think Microsoft needs to do and hopefully will do. And it's going to be a great show. Cannot wait to get back to doing this on Thursday. And, of course, Friday mornings, Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be making the announcement of the panel on who's going to be a part of that show. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy today's, again, it's a big storm, at least here in New York. If you're going to be in the line of the storm, please just be safe. Take care of one another. And I'll close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, it will be important to you. My dad taught me a lot of things, but two things stuck with me. He used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you on Thursday's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.